Hey everyone, thanks for hanging out with us today at Winnebago. We're going to talk about the Winnebago Ekko suspension, kind of what you get, what you can do with it, what we recommend, what we've been using, and give a little bit of education just like we did on the Sprinter side. Let's start with what you get from the factory from Winnebago on the van. So out of the box, the all-wheel drive Transit. It's pretty capable. It does great in snow. Been pretty reliable. No issues, right? You don't have to do any of this. Let's go ahead and preface all of this. We'll not sell you something you do not need. However, you can always make things better, and that's where we come into play to give you a better ride, give you more confidence in your handling abilities when you're on the highway, when you're off-road, when you're going down gravel, all that kind of good stuff. That's what we're here to suggest for, not necessarily saying you have to do any of this. When the van's empty and it's got none of the water, none of the waste, nothing packed in it, no people, no bedding, no clothes, all that stuff, it's about 9,500 pounds. Now, your gross vehicle weight restriction of what you can put in everything is 11,000 pounds, which means that your OCCC, your occupancy cargo carrying capacity, is about 1,500 pounds. So that means that you can add 1,500 pounds worth of water, worth of fuel, worth of dishes, worth of packing, worth of people, worth of bumpers and winches and lights and all that kind of stuff. You have about 1,500 pounds. Now, if you are towing, this comes into play because the combined gross max weight that you can do, your GCVWR, gross combined vehicle weight restriction, is 15,000 pounds. So that means best case scenario, you can tow 4,000 pounds if you take out some weight in the vehicle itself. Typically, I'll do that with not filling up the freshwater tank all the way to factor in your tongue weight of the trailer and the overall weight of the trailer to make sure that you're under that 500 pounds for the tongue weight and under the 15,000 pound total max weight. So that's kind of the overall ability of what you can do on the towing side. Now, another very important metric is your axle weight limitation. So the front axle, you can do 4630. This comes into account when you're doing bumpers, when you're doing winches, all that kind of stuff. Typically, you're not really gonna go over that, but it is still good to know in case you wanna do something like, I don't know, put a motorcycle or something on the front of your van. Like, it's rated for that, and that has to do with spring rate, suspension travel, dampers, all that kind of stuff to be able to control all that weight with that. The rear axle is 7275. Sorry, I am referencing to make sure that I don't forget the wrong metric for you guys. So if you see me look down, that's what I'm looking at. It is 7275, and that's gonna take into account all of the things, your weight, your towing, all that kind of stuff. That's the most weight that is allowed by law on the rear axle. Now, this is all a big fun game of playing Tetris and weights and figuring out what'll fit and what won't, but those are overall the numbers that tick the boxes of what actually matter, big picture. Now, it does come with some aftermarket wheels. They are 16s. No, they're not wider. No, they're not like crazy different. They're almost the same as like factory offset, so they'll stick out about the same and all that kind of stuff, but they are a Winnebago sourced wheel. It's a hand-cooked 205 75/16. It is a pretty small tire. There's lots of room in the wheel well to go out bigger, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, but they are known to be okay. They're not great, they're not horrible, but they're fine. They will get you down the road and you'll be perfectly happy. There's all kinds of better tires you can put on, whether you want off-road or you want a better highway tire. There are options for everyone in this sector to go a little bit bigger, to go to more comfort, and if you want more off-road performance or you want more on-road performance, there's an option for all of those. Now, let's go into what some of the options are. So, typically, when you're looking at suspension, you can look at it from relative smallest to biggest. Now, there's some caveats in here that I'll touch on as we go through, but basically the basis of everything is I always recommend the first thing you do, whether it's a Sprinter or a Transit for that matter, is the rear shocks. If you are on a budget and you ask me, hey, what is the best bang for the buck for what I can do for my Ekko? I'm gonna tell you Rear shocks are going to be the best option to do the biggest increase in handling and control of the vehicle of all of the options that are available. We use Van Compass and the Falcon shocks. They have the adjustable clicky knob in the back. Where this is very important is if you're going from on-road to off-road, this will allow you to go from a relatively stiff ride when you're on the road to help you with your wind conditions and semis and turns and all that kind of stuff. And then it'll let you go to a softer setting when you're off-road to help with the washboard, with the gravel roads, with the uneven surfaces, all that, and kind of make it a little bit more tolerable while you're on the road. The next step up from that is the Topo 2.0. So the Topo 2.0, all encompassing, is a front lift spring which raises the front of the vehicle up on the shock itself. It's a McPherson strut, so the spring is mounted to the strut, and that actually brings the vehicle height up a little bit there. There's also a spacer on the very top of the strut that is going to correct some geometry. So when you lift it, it changes your camber and your toe a little bit. So this brings it back in and gets it back into an alignment. You will still need a professional alignment afterwards because anytime your front end struts are taken off and things like that, because we got to take off the tie rods with the spacers installed and the added lift, it is definitely 100% required to get a front end alignment on your vehicle, so keep that in mind if you're doing it yourself. But anyways, the geometry spacer helps out to make sure that everything stays within limits and is necessary to get the full 2-inch lift out of the front end. In the rear end, you get lift blocks that go underneath your leaf springs. This is cool if you're a relatively light van. It's a very efficient situation to do it to keep the cost down. And then you get the shock relocation brackets at the very bottom of the shocks on the axle get moved up so that they're no longer the lowest hanging point and aren't going to get smacked by a rock or something like that. And then you get the Falcon shocks that are going to go in the back, the 3.3s, with the adjustment like we were talking about earlier. Now the next step up from that, which is what we recommend almost to everyone with an Ekko, is to do the OptiRate leaf springs. Now, we can add these on to a Topo 2.0 and do Optis instead of the lift block. With that, you're also going to be required to get longer rear sway bar links to make sure that you have no issues with binding or any complications in the sway bar area. It's a lot of if this then that's you have to do, but we will 100% guide you on the right things that kind of make everything work correctly. But the OptiRates are a full leaf pack replacement. So if you go out to your van now and look after you're fully loaded, you're probably going to notice that your leaf springs, and these are the things that your rear axle are sitting on top of, and they just look like a couple stacks of long metal that are bolted to the van. They're probably going to be flat or maybe frowning a little. Those, if they're frowning or flat, they're not doing their job because they don't allow the suspension to move through its travel to let the shocks control it, and that's why you're getting such a bad ride typically. So by going to a stiffer spring that can handle a lot more load carrying at a static height, it allows you to, once you hit that dip, instead of immediately hitting a bump stop and being very jarring and being very uncomfortable, it allows that axle to move through the suspension travel arc and to let your shock or strut actively dampen what's going on there and slow it down so that you don't get those jarring movements. And then when you get that side-to-side rocking, you're not just bouncing off of the bump stop side to side, you're actually letting the shocks do their job and control the movement of the van. It's a very critical portion of doing the suspension upgrade, in my opinion, in the Ekkos, because they are so heavy, and it will make a tremendous difference. Don't take it from me, like definitely ask other owners. Look in the Winnebago groups and stuff like that and talk to people that have done it, and it's a massive, massive change, and that's kind of what we were buying. There's a whole lot of other things that you can do. We can also do the adjustable lower control arms in the front. This is going to change the geometry a little bit of the front and how things mount, but it'll also give you a little bit more ground clearance. It's a much stronger lower control arm. It has a little bit more adjustability for your camber. It's a really nice upgrade. It is a little expensive to put on because it's so much work to get those lower control arms out, but you save a little bit if you do it along with the Topo 2.0. Gives you a little bit more rigidity, a little bit more ground clearance, slightly better geometry. It's a pretty good option. I like them, but it's not required. It is a nice to have. Another good thing to add on while we're off-roading and we're already under there is going to be the skid plates. So we can do a differential skid plate, which is by far and above one of the most common things that people get because it's one of the lowest hanging things under the vehicle, especially if you're staying with the stock size tires and you're going down some BLM land or off-road, things like that. It's very, very worth it to go ahead and install or have installed Van Compass skid plate. It's easy to do on your own. You're more than welcome to do it, or we can do it here at Winnebago. You can also do a front skid plate, depending on your bumper configuration. If your other things, it may require some modification, but Van Compass does make an engine intercooler skid plate that will protect all the vitals on the front of your engine as you're having fun and doing crazy things off-road and getting into some adventure. The last thing to talk about is tires. So like we talked about, the stock tires are a 205 75/16. You can't go bigger in wheel size. So the 16-inch wheels are gonna stay the same, but we can go a little bit bigger in tire size. So the most common upgrade is a 225 75/16 or a 245 75/16. Now, this is the most effective way to gain lift in the vehicle without doing substantial changes. You don't really have to modify anything in the fenders or anything like that. On certain 245s, if it rubs, it'll just be a little spot on the inside of the front bumper. You just trim with a razor blade. It's honestly really not that difficult. And a lot of times it's only gonna rub in certain situations, so you may not even wanna do anything with it at all because it's really not that big of a deal. But it's a direct bolt-on situation. So all you gotta do is throw the tires on and you're relatively good. The only caveat to that is that you're gonna need to do rear wheel spacers. So we sell them, you can also get them from other manufacturers, but a 1-inch wheel spacer that goes in between the two wheels in the back is required to make sure that the sidewalls on the dually do not touch. They're typically not going down the road, but as you let a little bit of air out, as you should do when you're going over like gravel road or washboard roads where they're really rutty, it's gonna help with the overall comfort of your vehicle off-road, and it's gonna also minimize all the rattles and all that kind of stuff because there's more compliance in the tire as you go over those washboards, and it's gonna significantly increase the comfort that you're gonna have. The spacers will make sure that you don't rub your sidewalls together and potentially get a weak spot and a blowout at some point. So it's very important if you're going to a 225 or a 245 that you do wheel spacers as well. You can put them right on the wheels you already have on the Ekko. There's not a problem with that. If you wanna get a better looking set of wheels, there's a couple manufacturers. We prefer to do the Methods. They're pretty tried and true. They look really good. They're also black. I think they look great on the van. You can use, I think Ultra also makes a wheel. I'm not personally a big fan of the look of them, and they haven't proven to be as popular. So Method is overall the way that most people go when you want to upgrade the look of the wheels. Now, spare tires is a very good question. You would obviously replace the spare tire that's in there with the new one, and it will fit in the same cage that is currently under the van. Not a problem. I've actually fit up to a 265 in there. I do not recommend using a 265 tire. It is much too large and takes a lot of cutting and some other stuff, so I don't really recommend it. So as far as why do we use Van Compass? Truthfully, I've been using Van Compass for the better part of 8 years since I built the first van that I had. I just have been very happy with their customer service and with their product. Over the years, they have constantly tried to do things better and try and make new products that work well, and they have delivered. So we tend to stick with what we know is reliable and good, both with the shocks and the leaf springs. And we are really, really happy with their products and personally with how they perform. Like I said, we've had them on lots and lots of vans that we personally owned, and they've been absolutely amazing. So super stoked to be, installing Van Compass for our customers as well. So that's really about it for the suspension and what we recommend and the options that we like. There's a lot of other manufacturers out there, and I'm sure they're perfectly fine, but we tried a lot of things and we ultimately come back to what we have recommended in this video. If you have any other questions, by all means, you can reach out to us, winnebago.com/contact. Fill out the form, and one of the team will be in touch with you shortly to answer your questions and or get you on the schedule. If you would like to order any of this stuff for yourself, you can go to vanpartswarehouse.com. We typically have it on the shelf in stock, so you typically do not have to wait for it, and we can get you the parts so you can do it yourself and get on out there and have some fun. Either way, hope this helped. If you want to know any more, leave it down in the comments or shoot us an email. I'll be more than happy to answer your questions. I'm Grant, and thanks for letting us help you upgrade your adventure.